Every licensed restaurant you eat in Larimer County has been inspected by the health department. You register your car through Larimer County, and you drive on Larimer County roads. And probably play in our Larimer County parks and open spaces. Your trash and recycling probably goes to the Larimer County landfill. In fact, I bet you can't go through a day without using a bunch of the things Larimer County does. Hi, I'm Rob Novak. If you own a house worth $275,000, you pay about $1,830 in property taxes each year. $475 of that goes to the county, and the rest, about $1,355, goes to schools, cities, and other entities like hospitals and libraries. About 30% of the county budget comes from local property taxes. The remaining 70% is from user fees, sales and use taxes that have been approved by local voters, state and federal funding, and reserves. All that totals over $300 million a year to provide county services. So what do you get for that money? 28% of the total budget goes into non-operational governmental accounts, which are essentially housekeeping accounts, holding funds that go to other governmental agencies or departments. 20% goes to public safety, the sheriff, jail, and district attorney. 19% goes to human and economic services, the health department, human services, the workforce center, and extension. 17% goes to community resources, infrastructure, and planning, which includes parks and open lands, roads and bridges, and the landfill. 11% goes to strategic leadership and administration, all the things that keep the county running, like facilities, computers, and equipment. And just under 5% goes into public records and information services, which are things like the clerk and recorder, treasurer, and assessor's office. When you think about all the things Larimer County does, Larimer County is a great value. If you own a house anywhere in Larimer County, it's been assessed by the Larimer County Assessor's Office. That means when your house was being built, the Assessor's Office sent somebody out here to measure it and check it out to see what it was worth. They update that value every 2 years to make sure it's still in line with the rest of the properties in the county. That's how they figure out what you owe in property taxes.
You always pay your taxes in arrears, so that means that the values that we sent out in May and that we go through the protest period and make any necessary adjustments, and we recertify in December. We deliver that to the Treasurer's Office.
The Treasurer's Office collects property taxes for all the property owners in Larimer County. January 1st of each year, we put together the tax roll and mail approximately 150,000 tax statements to the property owners in Larimer County. We provide the banking services for the county.
So in other words, they take all of the property taxes, state and federal grants, park fees, license fees, sales taxes, all the money that comes into the county, and then they redistribute it back out to the departments and other governmental entities in the right amounts.
There are 132 taxing authorities, and we distribute to those authorities monthly.
You also might not realize that all of the elections are run through the county. Your presidential elections, local elections, school board elections, referendums and initiatives, all those elections are handled by the county, and that makes for an interesting staffing problem.
We have a staff of 11 people, full-time staff. When we get to election time, depending on the type of election, we gear up anywhere from 200 up to 800 people. And they are all bipartisan judges that come in and help us with the elections. We train them and they are really the ones that conduct it.
So we see every resident in Larimer County throughout the year. So we have a Fort Collins office, a Loveland office, and an Estes Park office. And in our Loveland and Fort Collins office, we do have a lobby management system that we can look and see how many people are waiting for different transactions, how long they've been waiting, what their estimated service times are. So we can adjust staff accordingly where we need to allow the services to go through our office quicker.
Technology has changed the way a lot of people do business with the county. You can register your car online, register to vote online, look up property values, and even protest your property assessment. But sometimes you just want to talk to a person that can help you, and that's where the CIC comes in.
We tried to make something so that citizens can come to one place to get a lot of things done all at once. Clerk and recorder services, and you've got park services and sheriff. We take payments for sheriff citations now. If you get a ticket at a park for parking in the wrong spot, you can pay your tickets here. You can also do things like register pets. buy parks passes, do all kinds of interesting things, search and rescue cards. So we do a lot on behalf of other departments and other entities just to make it kind of convenient for people to come to one place.
All the county records are also housed here, but really, who cares about records?
We care because we keep track of your everything. If you lose your marriage license, we have a copy of it if you got married in Larimer County. If you lose your deed, we have a copy of that for permanent record. So we've got deeds that go all the way back to 1862, and we record them every day. We do about 350 to 450 documents a day right now. We'll have a copy of that for till the end of time. Yeah.
Well, I guess if we're talking about my wife and my house, yeah, I do care about that. "19% of public records and information services is from your local property taxes. 81% is from fees like cable franchise fees, treasurers, and motor vehicle fees." I love living in Larimer County, and one of the reasons is our wonderful parks and open spaces. These places are available to everyone, whether you live in a city or in an unincorporated part of the county. People here love the parks and open spaces so much, they decided to pay extra sales tax just to cover it.
Back in 1995, the citizens voted to tax themselves a quarter-cent for the conservation of open space, parks, recreation, and trails. And now we have 10 open spaces that are open to the public, 8,000 acres of conservation easement where land has been set aside by willing landowners, and we have about 88 miles of trails within the system for horseback riding, hiking, running, biking, all kinds of things that our citizens can enjoy.
You know, one of the trends and recreations we've seen in Colorado is we see more staycations. So when they visit here, they stay for longer periods of time. So what we try to do is give them more activities while they're here. Fishing, boating, canoeing, kayaking, stand-up paddle boarding, just hanging out on the swim beach, just taking your kids out to nature. We really have a wide variety. Even though we're only a mile from the city of Fort Collins, you feel like you're out in the mountains. That's kind of the uniqueness to Horsetooth Reservoir. When you're up here, you get that sense that you're really away.
We partner often with all the cities and towns in Larimer County, other state agencies, any partners that we can find, and that really helps extend the sales tax money even further. A great example of partnerships in Larimer County is the Laramie Foothills Mountains to Plains project, which included Larimer County, the city of Fort Collins, the Nature Conservancy, Great Outdoors Colorado, the Legacy Land Trust, and even some private landowners. And it helped protect the Red Mountain Open Space, Soapstone Prairie Natural Area, as well as some private land in northern Larimer County to conserve a total of over 40,000 acres.
The conservation of land and the opportunities for recreation are really some tremendous economic drivers. They bring businesses here, people come here to recreate, and they spend money in town. It's why people live here.
Larimer County's first fairgrounds was in Fort Collins, where the county fair was held from 1891 until 1893, right where the hospital stands today. Then, in 1912, Loveland built a fairgrounds, where the fair was held until 2003, when it moved here to the ranch. But the county fair is not the only thing that happens here at the ranch.
The ranch hosts about 2,100 events a year, concerts to hockey games to General Assembly events to outdoor walks, charity, rodeos, barrel racing. We've even done balloon festivals out here.
We like to think of the ranch as a place to come and have fun and relax. But in recent years, through tornadoes, floods, and fires, it's become an important community resource.
When incident command and evacuations and stalling horses are needed, we can operate those events just like a normal event.
You know, we don't always think about where our trash goes, but chances are it ends up in the Larimer County landfill. The landfill is jointly owned by Larimer County and the cities of Loveland and Fort Collins. That's a lot of trash.
Now the entire bank up here to the north of us is trash, and it goes down probably from where we're at now, maybe 80 to 100 feet below where you're looking at it. We're fairly busy all day long.
All the money that is used to support solid waste activities comes from people who pay user fees at our gate.
We get no tax dollars from Larimer County at all. Our recycling center, we subsidize some of that, depending on what the recycling pays, and then our education center, household hazardous waste.
A resident of Larimer County can bring in their waste, and it's sorted through, and if it's not any good, it goes to the most environmentally friendly way to dispose of it. And if it is good, it goes out here, and then people can come take it for free.
We're still hoping that technology will be part of the answer. Gasification, people producing less trash, and recycling more. And hopefully, in the future, we will not need as many landfills as we have now. We're going to have to become a lot smarter because we cannot continue to bury valuable resources.
Planning does both the day-to-day development review as well as long-term planning for both the urban and rural parts of Larimer County. There are areas adjacent to cities that we jointly work with cities in called growth management areas. But we only do the stuff outside city limits throughout the county. It's a 2,600-mile county, so we do stuff up in the mountains in Red Feather or right next to the town of Berthoud. Properties in the county develop under the county's rules and are approved ultimately by the county commissioners. We work with advisory committees, planning advisory committees in LaPorte and Red Feather. We work with individual citizen groups who may have a concern about a particular project or a particular area of development.
To be able to find out what the citizens actually want, they need, their desires, issues that they might have had with the county, and resolve those issues and come up with solutions to do the best job that we can able to do for the citizens.
We work with the citizens to get them through the process, the applicant, so that they come out with the best outcome possible for them and for the county as well.
So what we do in the building department is we adopt building codes. We give out information to the public about how to build. We require permits, we check plans, make sure they comply with the codes, and then we have building inspectors go out to job sites like this one and make sure the house is being built properly. The other thing we do is damage assessment after a natural disaster such as a flood or a wildfire or a tornado, and we'll look at the buildings and make sure that they're still safe, they can be reoccupied, or that they need to be repaired and brought up to code.
Rural Larimer County is pretty diverse. We have a lot of mountainous areas, plus we have plains where there's a lot of good irrigated farmland. We have a lot of ranch lands in the northern part of the county, and even have some wineries down in the southern part of the county. And you know, we support our rural lands by reaching out to the communities so we can learn to understand what their needs are, and then we work with them to find solutions about their issues. I think one of the more difficult things that we do is try to create a balance of individual property rights. And even though that's sometimes the more challenging aspect of our job, it's probably the most rewarding when we get it right and citizens are able to live the life that they desire to live in rural Larimer County.
A lot's changed in the last 20 years here in Larimer County, and that includes transportation. In fact, the miles driven on county roads have doubled, growing twice as fast as the population. Now, people drive on our county roads over 800,000 miles a day. That's the equivalent of driving from New York to Los Angeles 300 times in a single day. Some of these roads, especially those in the mountains, pose some challenges.
We have any number of roadways that were constructed literally as wagon trails maybe 100 years ago, and over the course of time they were turned into gravel roads, and then when the maintenance for those roadways became such a challenge and people have an expectation of driving higher speeds, there's times when those roads then get paved, and sometimes those roads were really designed for much lower speeds, and now we have paved roadways where people are expecting to drive more quickly, and yet the roadway geometry isn't really designed for that, and that's where our traffic safety program comes in. Identifying areas where we're seeing traffic crashes occur, and then identifying what we do about it, whether it's the installation of guardrail, additional signing, added striping, centerline rumble strips, or eventually, if in some areas where we apply for federal grants and realign roadways.
Grading a road is a, I don't know if I'd want to call it a fine art, but it's pretty precise. The template on a paved road has what they call a 2% crown, which is from the shoulder of your road to the center to the other shoulder. There's a raise in a road of 2%. On a gravel road, there's a 4% crown to get the water off the road faster. So, and as you go around the corner, the low part of the curve is lower than the outside to help hold the car in the corner better. In Larimer County, we have approximately 451 miles of non-paved roads.
We have approximately 475 miles of paved road that Larimer County maintains. The better we take care of them, the longer they're going to last, and we're going to get more bang for our buck in the end.
We currently own 33 tandem dump trucks. We can't own 3 separate fleets of trucks. We can't own a fleet of plow trucks and a fleet of hauling trucks and a fleet of water trucks. We sure could, but it would be very expensive. So we try to combine as many of those facets as we can.
So when is a dump truck not a dump truck? When it's a plow truck? A de-icing truck? Or even a water truck?
The structures group takes care of the bridges, the culverts, the pipe cleaning, and the ditch cleaning for Larimer County. We have around 650 bridges total, 200 major bridges with a span of 20 feet or greater, and our minor bridges around 454 feet to 20 feet, over 3,000 cross culverts, 4 feet or smaller, and then thousands of driveway culverts.
It's challenging enough to keep up with the demands and the needs of our citizens, even in the best of times. And then you throw on top of that something that was unplanned, like a snowstorm that destroys $25 million worth of buildings at our fairgrounds, or a fire that burns 80,000 acres of ground, or when you have a flood that destroys $100 million worth of our transportation system, our roads and bridges in 1 year. You really have to throw out whatever plans you had to some extent and try to repair that damage. But at the same time, you have to realize that 90% of the roads and bridges are still in good shape, so you have to take care of those too. It's a real challenge.
24% of the budget for community resources, infrastructure, and planning services is paid by property taxes. The remaining 76% is from user fees like park fees, landfill fees, and building inspection fees, the Help Preserve Open Spaces sales tax, and state and federal funding for roads.
Our priority as a department is emergency response. If somebody dials 911, we want them to respond as needed.
That emergency response might be a single patrol car, or, in the case of a disaster, all available personnel.
A lot of it is coordinating with others to get the job done with very limited resources.
In Larimer County, we do an enormous amount of actual response coordination of actual resources out in the field at an incident command post, whatever.
Our fire crew is an on-call fire crew, so they're not here necessarily at our facility, but when there is a fire, they are paid to go out and fight wildland fires, either in the county or throughout the country. Now, the search and rescue team and the dive rescue team are volunteers.
Whether you are a survivor of a disaster or a victim of a crime, Larimer County has people to help you.
As a victim, you've already sustained a tremendous amount of trauma from the crime. You feel like you don't really have a voice. Victim advocates are there to ensure and reassure victims that they do have a voice. Last year, we collected about $14 million in restitution for victims of crime. So it's a huge program.
One place you don't really want to stay here in Larimer County is here at the county jail.
We run the only jail for the county. So if somebody's arrested in Fort Collins or in another municipal area, that's where they're going to be taken. So it's a necessary function. It's mandated by state law. We have to have the jail here and operate it.
As the county grows, you would expect the jail to grow just as fast. In the early 2000s, that's exactly what was happening. At that point, it looked like we were going to have to spend $60 million to expand the jail and an additional $7.5 million each year just to keep it up.
We created a committee called the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee, and one of the first things we did is we put a cap on the jail, 460 inmates in the jail. We looked at who's coming into the jail. Can they get out sooner than 3 days, which was kind of the process prior to pretrial services.
It used to take quite a while to get out on bond after you were booked, and we had people waiting around in the jail who hadn't even been tried yet. Now, pretrial employees work with the courts to bond people out quickly. That alone cut the jail's population down by 15%. Then there are alternative programs, like work release. People who are not considered dangerous can serve out their terms here instead of in the jail. They sleep in this facility and then leave for their jobs each day.
Another program is the Midweek and Workender program, which is an intermittent program. It takes place on either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday, Sunday.
You know, instead of throwing everybody in jail and costing them jobs and their family lives, it's already hard enough. So we get to come here and save it all. I own my own company here in town, and it keeps me being able to run my business and keeps me out of jail. And yet I still get to repay my debt to society.
We assign offenders to different crews and send them out in the community. They do a variety of different manual labor tasks for nonprofit and tax-supported agencies in the community.
Here, there, and everywhere, we're kind of silent, but we get in there and get it done, get it cleaned up, and just help out the community.
At much less cost than having somebody in jail. Jail is about $87 a day. The cost for the taxpayers in an alternative program averages about $25 a day.
A pretty staggering number is for every 32 offenders in the jail, it costs taxpayers $1 million a year. So any number of offenders that we can get into the alternative programs, provide them with ties to their community, and get them through their sentence, saves taxpayers a significant amount of money.
Kids are a somewhat different situation than adults.
Kids are apt to make mistakes. They don't think like adults, and so in general we want to keep juveniles out of the system as much as possible.
The juvenile division works with kids 10 through 17, and depending on the charges, they may choose to prosecute, send them to a diversion program, or even just sit them down and give them a good talking to.
We try to address the issue and hopefully prevent it from happening in the future.
64% of public safety services is from your local property taxes. 36% is from state and federal funding, as well as fees for criminal justice, sheriff, and the district attorney. Larimer County is committed to the health and well-being of its residents. And that means ensuring that we're protecting the vulnerable, helping people who are struggling become self-sufficient, and ensuring that the entire population is healthy. And although they serve all ages, there's a special emphasis on kids.
A baby that is born healthy has a much better opportunity for a healthy life. When they are given the kind of stimuli they need to grow and develop appropriately, they're better able to succeed in school, in life. There is a real economic side to that as well as the human side.
Since we are able to offer them healthy food and nutrition tips during pregnancy, we are seeing better birth outcomes, less premature deliveries, low birth weight infants. So we can really have an impact there, and it does save Medicaid dollars because there's less health care costs. So if we can help moms with nutrition and health tips early on, it will help their children to develop good food and nutrition habits. There's less chance of them maybe developing diabetes or heart disease later on.
You gotta let go, there you go. Everybody knows when you're around a kid and they get sick. Pretty much everybody gets sick. And if they've got a cold, you know, that's okay. But there's a lot of other diseases out there that can be much more serious for kids.
We do immunizations here for the Vaccines for Children program. Children who do not have insurance, who are underinsured, we want to make sure that no child develops a vaccine preventable disease because they seem to be more susceptible, more prone to complications from diseases.
Keeping kids healthy is one thing, but keeping them safe is also important. Sometimes the stress of life can really push parents and they forget why they became parents in the first place. That's when it's time for the county to step in and lend a hand.
Our main focus is to work with families to keep families safe and to keep children safe in their own communities. We work in a differential response philosophy, meaning that we respond to allegations of child abuse and neglect, working with the family to help keep the children in their home and also give the families and the parents support, because if we are not helping that family, then we're going to be looking for placement for that child. If we don't invest in children, especially when the family's in a moment of crisis, then we're not helping the community.
Families with kids aren't the only ones who need support. The fastest growing population in Larimer County is people over 65, and the Office on Aging has programs to help aging seniors and caregivers as well.
Our system really can't afford to make an assumption that everyone's going to be able to afford assisted living or skilled nursing level of care. And our public assistance programs really can't afford to have everyone go to that highest level of care. Not everyone needs that. So if we start looking at programs, start networking with other agencies and start finding those gaps in services, and as a community address where those gaps are, then as our population ages, it'll benefit the whole community.
While the county works with individuals on many levels, it's the goal of the health department to have an impact on people's lives by improving the health of the community as a whole. So in addition to holding immunization clinics when needed, or tracking West Nile virus,
air quality monitoring, water quality, zoonosis, which is diseases spread by animals, inspecting food establishment. We also do a lot of planning, training, and exercising around what we would do public health-wise in a disaster.
$6. Perfect. Okay. Thanks so much. Did you know Larimer County's farmers market was the first farmers market in the county? Larimer County Extension does all sorts of cool stuff, from run the farmers market to 4-H to financial and nutritional education for anyone who needs it.
And Extension is a part of a land-grant university, and our purpose is to bring quality, current, up-to-date information into people's lives, in their homes, into their hands, so that they can make better decisions and improve their quality of life.
The experts at Larimer County Extension work with researchers at Colorado State University to give people access to the latest information.
As the horticulture agent for Larimer County, I coordinate the Master Gardener program, which is entirely volunteer-based, and they receive training and then they do outreach education for the Extension office. I run the farmers market and I do a lot of public education.
In addition to useful information for everyday life, Extension has a lot to offer when there's a disaster, like the High Park fire or flood of 2013.
We gathered current research-based information to get it on our website so that people could access it that way, but we also were at the Disaster Recovery Center the entire time so that we could actually talk with people to help them know how to deal with mold, mildew, treat their wells, deal with food safety issues, trying to reduce the level of stress that they're already dealing with.
When it comes down to it, part of what makes a community healthy is a thriving economy. Larimer County is committed to helping people find great jobs that they love, and employers find great employees that can help their businesses grow.
The attractiveness of a community is very much based on the human element, the human capital that exists there and that will grow there. So businesses are looking to communities that have the human capital that allow them to be more competitive in the 21st century economy.
We may be most well known for the services that we provide to our job seekers and folks that are looking for employment, and that's really who walks through our door the most. But we also realize that there is a strong component of supporting and working with our business community so that there are jobs available.
And that's what the Workforce Center does best, work at both parts in helping match our businesses with the trained, skilled workforce they need.
The Workforce Center definitely has a focus in training. We receive federal dollars to help support at-risk youth and laid-off workers and unemployed adults. So the primary point of training is to help people transition into employment if they're underskilled or if they're coming from a layoff in an occupation that is in decline.
So we do work with our community college partners to make sure that the trainings that are available are what companies are expecting and needing.
We bring the companies into the classroom, we do tours, the companies are helping us develop the curriculum. We take our instructors out to visit a lot of the companies to understand how the skills that they're teaching relate back to what's being used out there in industry.
I love the opportunity to help make a difference in a citizen's life by providing meaningful employment or training activities, seeing people go to work.
18% of the budget for human and economic services is from your local property taxes. 82% is from state and federal funding, as well as user fees like 4-H and health department fees. So there you have it. Whether or not you're in downtown Fort Collins or an unincorporated part of the county, you're using county services. Looking for a job or hiring, buying a house, shopping at the farmer's market, or taking a hike, Larimer County is a great value.